Hello everyone. You're watching sqadia.com, and today our lecture topic is the autonomic nervous system and visceral reflexes, and we are on the second section of this lecture, that is the sympathetic part of the autonomic nervous system. What are we going to discuss in this lecture? We are going to be discussing in this section what is the anatomy of the sympathetic part of the autonomic nervous system, what are its functions, what are the afferent and efferent fibers in different part of the autonomic nervous system, and how actually it affects our body. The sympathetic system is the larger of the two parts of the autonomic nervous system and is widely distributed throughout the body and innervates many viscera. The sympathetic system consists of the efferent outflow of the spinal cord, two ganglionated sympathetic trunks, important branches, plexus, and regional ganglia. Now remember, sympathetic outflow is there's a paravertebral trunk called a sympathetic trunk, which are actually lying on both sides of the vertebral column. The sympathetic fibers which have arisen from the spinal cord actually go into these ganglia, and then they fuse, and from there onward the postganglionic fibers will rise. Not in case of the parasympathetic. In the case of parasympathetic, the ganglia are actually lying at the level of a viscera, where the target organ is. Now this is the diagram which is actually showing the organization of sympathetic part of the nervous system. As you can appreciate over, this is the vertebral column, these are the vertebrae, this is vertebral discs, this is the spinal cord which is lying inside. As you can appreciate, there will be fibers coming in from the top, there will be synapses over here in the lateral horn. From there onward they would arise and come out, and this is the paravertebral chain or paravertebral sympathetic chain. The fibers come out in first synapse over here, those sympathetic fibers, and from there onward after synapses, then these sympathetic nerves which actually arise are the postganglionic fibers and form actually the splanchnic plexus, and different plexuses are formed. This is also showing a very schematic diagram of actually what happens. If you can appreciate over here, this is the lateral horn. The preganglionic fibers have reached over here. As they go in, they reach the ganglia. From there onward, the synapse. Now, there could be two possibilities. They could synapse at the same level of the ganglia. They can enter the ganglia. Instead of synapses, they go up 2 or 3 levels and synapse there. For example, if you can appreciate over here, the fiber is coming right over here, but it's not synapsing. Instead, it's rising over here and it's synapsing at this level, just one level above this level. And from here onwards, the post-ganglionic fibers are actually arising towards the effector organs, which could be skin, which could be blood vessels, which could be anything. Depending upon what the target organ is, that there will be a different effect. Now, the second possibility is that the fiber arises from this level, it goes into the ganglion, synapses at the same level, postganglionic fiber arises and goes at this level. Now actually why is this happening is because if there is any lesion, for example at this level, there would be still some degree of fibers which would be coming off from this, as well as because there will be some fibers which will be coming off from here and synapsing here. Then there will be fibers which are coming here and going up and synapsing there, and there will be fibers coming here and going down and synapsing there. So not all the in outflow would be lost, some part of it would be retained. The other way, the third most possibility is that the fiber go in, they reach over here in the ganglia, instead of going up or down, they just synapse. They don't synapse at all. They go all the way towards near the target organ, and if there is ganglia present in the target organ, the synapse there, and from there onward a very small postganglionic fiber arises. Now it's actually showing the example of an intestine. In an intestine, we have a mesenteric and apex plexus, which is actually present in the intestinal wall. So the fibers which have arisen from the spinal cord, they reach the sympathetic ganglia but they do not synapse. They go all a long way when this forming a splanchnic nerves, and then once they form a splanchnic nerve, they go and bind and synapse in the ganglia of the mesenteric and apex plexus. And from there onward, a small postganglionic fiber arises, which goes into and supplying the sympathetic part of the autonomic nervous system to the intestine. So what are the functions of the sympathetic part of autonomic nervous system? As we all know, it's, if you remember, the mechanism is it prepares you for fight or flight. If there's a dog which is after you, it's a rabid dog, and you want to run fast, the system which would be working would be for you, there would be sympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate would be increased. Arterioles of the skin and intestine are constricted because at this time you don't need them to work, you need your muscles to work. Arterioles of the skeletal muscles are dilated, so more blood can flow to the skeletal muscles. The blood pressure is raised. There is a redistribution of blood, thus it leaves the skin and gastrointestinal tract and passes to the brain, heart, and the skeletal muscle, because you need all these three components at this time more than your skin and intestine. In addition, the sympathetic nervous system dilates the pupil, inhibits smooth muscles of the bronchi, in the intestine and bladder wall, and closes the sphincters. Because at this moment you don't want to urinate, so sphincters closes. Bronchioles dilate, so you can take in more air because you're running out away from the dog. You need more air so that you don't build up lactic acid in your body. Bronchi would dilate, your respiration rate would increase, you will be inhaling and exhaling more of an air. Your pupils will dilate because more light will come into your eye, so that your vision will become more in a way that you can see more and you can see better, because your body needs to protect you from the rabid dog. So it's actually helping you out. Actually, this autonomic system is firing so that all those things which are actually needed to get away from that rabid dog is necessary. All those things should be happening at this time. The hair is made to stand on end and the sweating occurs. So as I just told you, the lateral gray column, we have just discussed the afferent and efferent fibers. How actually the afferent fibers are those which are arriving into the ganglia, while efferent is actually the sympathetic outflow. The lateral gray columns are horns of the spinal cord from the first thoracic segment to the second lumbar segment. Actually, this is thoracolumbar outflow, while the parasympathetic is craniosacral outflow. They possess cell bodies of the sympathetic connector neurons. The myelinated axon of these cells leave the cord and anterior nerve roots and pass via white rami communicans to the paravertebral ganglia or the sympathetic trunk, which we have already just discussed. They synapse with an exciter neuron in the ganglion that is at the same level. The postganglionic non-myelinated axons leave the ganglion and pass to the thoracic spinal nerves as a gray rami communicans. They are distributed to the branches of the spinal nerves to smooth muscles in the blood vessels, sweat glands, erector muscles, the hair, and skin. Now remember, this outflow could be three-way. Either the synapse at the same level and then exit as a gray rami communicans. They can enter at the same level, but synapse 2 or 3 levels above the level which they are entering. And the other way is that they do not synapse at all. They just pass through the autonomic ganglia and form a splanchnic nerve, and they eventually synapse in the ganglia which is present near the effector organ or the target organ. Then that is what this is just saying. They travel cephalid and sympathetic trunk to synapse in the ganglia in the cervical region. They may pass through the ganglia of the sympathetic trunk without synapses, as it can also happen, and they finally synapse in the ganglia which is near to the effector organ. These myelinated fibers leave the sympathetic trunk as a greater splanchnic, lesser splanchnic, lowest least splanchnic nerves. Now, all those fibers which are not synapsing in the paravertebral ganglia are in the sympathetic trunk, and they leave as such actually form three types of sympathetic outflow plexus called as splanchnic plexuses. They are actually divided from greater splanchnic nerve, then there are lowest or least splanchnic nerve, and there are middle or lesser splanchnic nerves. Now this is a diagram which is actually comparing the sweatic nervous system, which is supplying the muscles, to the autonomic nervous system. If you see over here, this is the somatic part of the nervous system. This is the sensory part. The efferent fibers are coming in. They are dorsal root ganglion. The cell bodies are present in over here of the bipolar. The synapse. This is the internuclear neurons, the connecting neurons. And instead of, if you see this system, there is no actually direct control of the brain above. Rather, it's kind of a reflex. This directly, the postganglionic fibers reach the muscle and they contract. This is a classical reflex which can be seen if we touch a hot object. Suddenly our hand would be just pulled away. The reason is because this reflex is working. The skin will sense the heat, they will send impulses back to spinal cord, they will get connected, and suddenly the postganglionic fibers will go to the muscle which is specifically needed to contract so that we can pull our hand back. But in case of an autonomic nervous system, it's a little different. The sensory are actually coming from the organ which is actually affecting. For example, it's showing stomach over here. Now, stomach would be innervated with parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, and there will be afferent and efferent fibers present over there. Now, these are the afferent fibers, which is afferent neurons, which is going in all the way. This is also a bipolar neuron whose cell body is present dorsal root ganglia. They go and synapse. If you see over here, they're synapsing in the posterior horn, where over here they synapse mainly the lateral gray column or lateral horn of the spinal cord. There is no internucleal or connecting neuron as compared to somatic nervous system. Then a new fiber arises. This is called a sympathetic connector neurons is present over here instead of over here, and it starts like this, goes into the ganglia. Now three things can happen. Either they can reach over here, synapse, and postganglionic fibers can arise at this level. They can go above and synapse 2 to 3 levels above, or simply they can pass without synapses into the splanchnic nerves and form a sympathetic ganglia, which is actually present in the mind-turning and orbix plexus of the stomach wall. They can synapse here, and then postganglionic fiber would arise and cause their effects on the stomach, for example, to decrease the peristalsis of the stomach. This is how the sympathetic nervous system brings about the change as compared to the somatic nervous system. So, splanchnic plexus, the greater splanchnic nerve is formed of the branches of the 5th to 9th thoracic. From T5 to T9, we have the greater splanchnic nerves. It descends obliquely on the sides of the body. Actually, it's formed by those fibers which have not synapsed in the ganglia are actually going towards the visceral sympathetic ganglia of the gut. It descends obliquely on the sides of the body of thoracic vertebra, pierces the crust of the diaphragm to synapse with exciter cells in the ganglia, form a celiac plexus, the renal plexus, and suprarenal medulla. When they go towards the gut, they form a celiac plexus. In the renal, they form renal plexus and suprarenal medulla as well. The lesser splanchnic forms from the branches of T10 to T11. It descends with the greater splanchnic nerve and pierces the diaphragm to form cells in the ganglia in the lower part of the celiac plexus. Actually, celiac plexus is actually that ganglia which is containing the sympathetic part, but it is lying near to the organ or viscera effector organ. The lowest splanchnic nerve, when present, arises from the T12 and pierces the diaphragm, synapses the exciter neuron in the ganglia of the renal plexus only. Now, this is I was talking about. This is the sympathetic chain, which is a paravertebral chain. Adjacent to it, there is a thoracolumbar outflow from T1 till T5, T6. You have greater splanchnic nerves, and then you have lesser splanchnic nerve, and then there's maybe a T11, 12 is the least splanchnic nerve. The fibers are all going into the celiac ganglia and suprarenal and renal ganglia. From there onwards, some fibers also go to the celiac, while as a renal ganglia, but the least splanchnic nerve only supplies the renal and suprarenal ganglia. But all this is actually all the outflow to the gut is actually abdominal visceral organs are going through the splanchnic nerves, and mainly through the 3 splanchnic nerves, greater, lesser, and least splanchnic nerve. By this, we have come to the end of the sympathetic part of our autonomic nervous system. We discussed what is anatomy, what are the afferent and efferent fibers, what are the functions of the autonomic nervous system, especially the sympathetic part of the autonomic nervous system on our body. Thank you very much. Keep watching sqadia.com.